Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer gameplay, quick match gameplay. This time around I'm playing against F Dogga Team as the Warriors of Chaos on the map of the Void of Hellfen. Now as you can see, I'm running actually the same build with Brettonia that I did in one of my previous games. But the main reason I decided to demonstrate it again is actually because this time around the Chaos build was much more conventional. It was a much more common Chaos build, so I wanted to show like how this would work out, or how well it would function against a normal Chaos build, rather than a bunch of Marauders with some Chaos Knights. So as you can see, I'm running the same build. Over here I have the Fey Enchantress with her bodyguard of Grail Guardians. As I've said before, these guys do hit a bit like wet noodles, but they have incredibly high defense, melee defense, armor, and baseline physical resistance, so I do move 20%. My front line consists of a mix of halberds, or polearms, I always call them halberds because of Empire, and foot squires, switching out 1-2-1-2, just so that I have that full anti-large coverage and anti-infantry coverage. Then with a Grail Relic in the back right here in the middle, once again I do start very spread out so as to avoid getting hit by artillery. In the back I have 2 units of Pox Arrow Armored Peasant Bowmen, and then out on the flanks I have 2 units of Questing Knights, just to provide some armor piercing damage and on mounts and help clear out that enemy infantry. And so yeah, that's my build. I'm going to start the game up. It is a bit slow despite the fact that there was definitely a bit of lag in this game, so the start was a bit slow. Also, once I saw there was no ammunition on the enemy team, so I knew there wasn't any artillery. I was a little slow. I just went over, made sure to see every unit they had, see what they brought. 2 units of Chaos Warhounds out here on the flank. There is a Chaos Sorcerer of Death already riding forward on his horse, just to try to get some early damage in with his magic. Back here there are 2 units of Forsaken, mixed in with 3 units of Chaos Warriors with halberds, 1 unit of Chaos Marauders with great weapons, and these are cheap and dish out a lot of damage actually. And 2 units of Aspiring Champions just to kind of stiffen up that front line, increase their morale. They're all being led by Sigvald with Auric armor and an Exalted Hero right here. And then, interesting enough, for an additional anti-large choice, and my opponent has a lot of anti-large, probably was expecting me to bring a fair amount of cavalry, which I didn't really quite do. He brought a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, which is definitely, I think, an interesting choice. Not weak by any means, because Terror, which can be potent against Brettonia if caught without the Grail Relic, and very hard for something like Questing Knights to take down, despite having armor piercing, because it just has so much HP and dish out so much hurt. Plus, it's a very solid melee defense and melee attack, and Questing Knights are kind of mediocre in that department. So without further ado, definitely going to throw it back into normal speed. As you can see, I am trying to push up on the flanks with the Questing Knights over here, but I don't want to but over here I'm pulling back because I don't want to get hit by Fate of Buna too soon. Now I do kind of try to bait my opponent here with the Fey Enchantress, and it actually works better than I expected because my opponent decides to overcast the Spirit Leech. Spirit Leech is and I chase him off with the Fey Enchantress over here. Spirit Leech actually overcast doesn't actually improve his damage at all. It simply increases range. So given that, and the fact that the Fey Enchantress is 60% magic resistance, means that I took practically no damage there. And my opponent's Chaos Sorcerer of Death actually hurt himself with the overcast miscast. I do fire some poison arrows at him. Obviously I know that I'm not going to kill him, but just trying to get a bit of damage in there and slow him down. I was hoping to slow him down so that Fey Enchantress could get a charge into him, but I don't want to risk it. I don't know if my opponent has any other units. I don't know if the Hounds would close in, and if they closed in, I could have a hard time getting in time to save her, especially if the Shaggoth came in as well. Well, I could, but it just would take a lot of damage. I don't want to take premature damage. Over here, I do push out with the Questing Knights, and then pull them away immediately, because once again, I don't want to get bit by Fate of Buna, at least not too soon. So I'm just kind of poking. Now my Knights, though, are kind of falling back into line. I'm making sure to keep this Grail Relic just shy of my front line, so they can't be sniped too easily. I'm just advancing very slowly and steadily. My opponent is also advancing slowly and steadily. Now that he sees that I'm willing to push into him, I guess. I'm not entirely sure why he was. If he was worried I was going to try to ambush him, try to trap him, he might have been. But I'm definitely hoping the engagement will go down over somewhere around here. and yeah, just catch him with my catch my opponent with my infantry, just shot as much damage as I can. Now, my opponent immediately goes in with the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. Goes for my foot squires. Definitely the smarter of the that was a smarter choice because they don't have anti-large bonus. But I immediately push into halberds and start shooting with poison arrows, slow them down, make it easier for the halberds to keep up. Hopefully, dish out some damage to them. Already taking a tiny bit of damage. Now, in the meantime, my opponent's Forsaken are just closing in and going after these men-at-arms with polearms. I countercharge with my cavalry, but of course get hit by an immediate Fate of Buna. In turn, I overcast or actually just cast them. Oh yes, I do overcast an Earthblood over here. The men-at-arms with polearms are doing their best to hold against the Chaos Marauders with great weapons, but they have my opponent has popped standard die, which for the moment is definitely helping them a lot. Foot Squires have are holding their ground here, but I managed to wrap these Foot Squires around, and this is very good. That means I can hit my opponent from the back. Unfortunately, get that morale penalty. Unfortunately, the Aspiring Champions are going to keep him there for a while. I'm actually a little worried here. My my bowmen are whittling down and slowing down his Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, which is being focused out by cavalry, by men-at-arms with polearms. Shortly, though, I pulled the cavalry back because I realized that this fight right here at the front is significantly more important than the Shaggoth, who is not even doing his points worth in tying stuff down here. So I'm just piling the Foot Squires on. The Forsaken are already breaking. The Forsaken are not that great against, certainly not good against cavalry, and they're heavy cavalry, and they're not that great against Foot Squires. Certainly okay against men-at-arms and polearms. They're also getting intermingled with their heavy infantry there. I'm trying to make sure the Brettonia survives at all costs here, slowing down the Exalted Hero with poison arrows, slowing down Prince Sigvald, and she's still chasing this Dragon Ogre. In the meantime, this mosh pit over here, I've gotten another regrowth in. I dropped a regrowth on the Questing Knights when they charged into my opponent's back, because I didn't want to lose them. They still took a fair amount of losses. They took 5 model losses so far, and they might take more. But they definitely got a decent charge in there, got some damage in. My opponent's Warhounds are regrouping, but it's Forsaken over here have routed, and I do believe they might have routed for good here. But I'm running the Grail Relic around, just trying to keep it away from Sigvald, keep it away from this Exalted Hero, so that you just can't get focused out. In the meantime, though, my Grail Guardians get hit by another Fate of Buna, so and to save them, I throw them against the Chaos Marauders with great weapons because they have lower combat stats. So I'm hoping to take advantage of that to keep my Grail Guardians alive. In the meantime, Spear Leech does go off of my Questing Knights. It does well pick off some models, but probably not the best use of magic. I am trying to focus out the Chaos Sorcerer of Death over here. And unfortunately, this is where things really start going awry. My Grail Relic is over here. And my opponent, obviously the men-at-arms with polearms can't chase down the Shaggoth. It's much faster than they are, even with the poison. And my opponent gets a rear charge on my infantry. And as you can see, immediately the Brettonian infantry, hit by Terror Shock from behind, starts to break off to all 4 corners of the wind. And I'm in deep trouble. Fortunately, these Questing Knights do come back in with favor of the Fey cast on them. Questing Knights, because they are Brettonian cavalry, do have okay, and I still won't say good, but definitely okay morale. And I do cast another Chalice of Potions over here. I casted one over here earlier. Hits my opponent, hits me a fair bit. But my infantry does slowly begin to recover, start surrounding these Aspiring Champions. I'm still trying to pepper this Shaggoth down, but definitely you can see. And I pulled the Grail Relic over here, and I think that was a bit of a saving grace. I got the Grail Relic over here, and the boost from morale and the immunity to terror definitely helped them recover. In the meantime, Fan Enchantress got. I tried to cast a heal, but it was too late. The Fan Enchantress got hit by the Dragon Ogre and forced to rout. And fortunately, though, I do chase out the Dragon Ogre with Arrow Fire and with the Questing Knights, but instead of pursuing with Questing Knights, I go after the Chaos Sorcerer of Death because I don't want him. He has any more Spirit Leeches, Fate of Bunas, that sort of stuff. Over here, my Foot Squires are slowly mopping up my opponent's infantry. They'll mop up these Forsaken just fine, I think. And these guys don't have Frenzy active because they've been taking too much. They've been taking too much damage, too much morale hurt. My opponent's Exalted Hero, and this is, I think, a bit of a problem for my opponent throughout much of this game. A lot of his high-end units, Sigvald, the Exalted Hero over here, and the Shaggoth were being used against significantly cheaper units and almost exclusively against those cheaper units. So they were just getting tied down, bogged down. None of them are particularly great at killing small or big blobs of infantry, and it's simply a bit of a waste. Now, my Fan Enchantress finally does recover, unfortunately, and I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but I accidentally casted a Earthblood over there on her, which wasted all my remaining Winds of Magic. The Questing Knights, who I was hoping would take down the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth, do not. They actually break, and as you can see, they're losing like 5 models to hit you. It's pretty painful. Dragon Ogre definitely is as well against large units. Or they lost like 5 models in one of those hits, I think. It went from like 12 to 7. Now, the Dragon Ogre, though, does charge the Foot Squires, and where the Knights failed, the Foot Squires won't, and they're going to cut him down. In the meantime, the Grail Guardians are doing their best against this Exalted Hero. They're both wavering. It does look like the Grail Guardians will come out just barely on top, and I chase them after put them out on Sigvald. Unfortunately, I did still have him hotkeyed with the Fan Enchantress, which is why she charged on Sigvald, and that was definitely not the best, and definitely a bit of a risky situation. I used the Foot Squires to chase the Exalted Hero, just hoping to get him off the field. Similarly, over on this flank, I'm going to use these Men-at-Arms with polearms to chase down these Halberds to make sure they never come back. In the meantime, Foot Squires are coming back. Grail Relic. The reason I casted Earthblood, I had intended to cast Earthblood around her before when she was over here. But unfortunately, I think it stayed queued up even though she broke, and so when I clicked on her after getting her back, and because it was laggy, then it just allowed the cast to go through. It was clicking multiple times, and yeah, I definitely paid the price there for that. So now I don't have magic to heal any of these guys, at least not at the moment. I'm trying to wait and save up for one more Earthblood. As you can see, the Rail Guardians, despite hitting like wet noodles, are actually holding their own against Sigvald. Because he's not really able to hit him very often. Unfortunately, Sigvald does have Auric Armor, and he still has a bit of, we can see, unfortunately it's a little hard to see the card. He just ran out of healing. So, he is slowly being whittled down. He is losing, or varying between losing and being even. He did hit these Rail Guardians. Sigvald has a very solid melee attack, but he's being weakened. I bring my Fan Enchantress close. The Fan Enchantress, Mist of the Lady, people usually remember the Mist of the Lady for the fact that it provides a constant source of damage around her, but it also reduces enemy melee attack by a fair bit. So I'm keeping her just on the edge of Sigvald, making sure I'm bringing down his melee attack, making it easier for my guys to beat him down. Plus the Grail right there, so my infantry never breaks. And that is the end of that replay, as my opponent's only remaining guy shatters. Now, that was definitely a much tighter match. There were some issues, and some of the micro problems that I had could have most likely been avoided had I not been lagging. But similarly, my opponent's Shaggoth, I think, ran a bit amok because of the lag, and like ran where he probably didn't want it to. And the Chaos Warhounds with poison did get sacrificed fairly early, and that might have been because of lag. Actually, if you look at this kill count, though, all the Men-at-Arms with polearms performed fairly well, given that they're fighting against units that are almost all of these units are more expensive than they are. So definitely performed fairly well. And then my opponent had a much smaller army than me, a much more elite army, so that was to be expected. The Foot Squires performed really well too. They some of them dished out an insane amount of kills. They got flanks. They held their own. The Peasant Bowmen with arrows spent most of the game focused on the Shaggoth or enemy heroes. So obviously they didn't get too many kills, and I'm okay with that. They were there for a specific reason. That was weakening up enemy elite units. Grail Relic surprisingly got a kill somewhere in there, but most importantly, it saved my morale when that Dragon Ogre terrored out my infantry line. Similarly with the Fan Enchantress, she was just dishing out. I don't think she got credit for the kills with the Chalice of Potions. She was just dishing out that constant rain HP damage, and providing those amazing heals. The heals were huge in that battle. Without the heals, probably falling apart almost immediately. Grail Guardians also proved tanky, and despite being on 2 models at the end, we're still holding Sigvald in place, or helping the infantry hold Sigvald in place. Questing Knights also dished out a fair amount of damage. One of them I think I used one of them against Shaggoth and against units like that, and I think that was these guys. The other unit got wiped out to a man, so definitely a good performance. Those were the guys who were fighting infantry, I do believe. So yeah, and for my opponent, Sigvald obviously performed pretty well. The Chaos Source of Death, once again, not really getting too many kills, but that's okay. And his Fate of Bunos were really pretty potent. They knocked my army down a fair bit. The Exalted Hero, a fair amount of kills. Of course, I had a much blobbier, much bigger army, though fairly elite as for infantry as far as Brettonia is concerned. Chaos Marauders, as you can see, they performed very well. They dish out a lot of damage for what they are, for how cheap they are. Sparring Champions did okay. One of the units Forsaken, if against the polearms, they will still do very well. Despite the polearms at least having a little more melee defense and dishing out a little more damage with their armor piercing. These Forsaken, though, got caught by foot squads and cavalry, and they did terrible. And that's why cavalry is very important for Brettonia, in my opinion. The Chaos Warriors with halberds, once again, they had a very good time. They're not bad in melee against, say, foot squires, even. They're more expensive, actually. They cost 850. They can definitely dish out the hurt, though. And they can even and of course they can tear down these questing knights and these Grail Guardians with their massive armor piercing and their massive bonus against large. The Chaos Warhounds with poison. Now this was an interesting point I forgot to note in the, as the battle was starting. But my opponent threw these Chaos Warhounds into the fight and actually stopped the first four units on my right flank from moving further completely because they got tied down fighting the Warhounds. And that was a very clever move, I think, and because it broke my charge bonus and made sure that his infantry got their charge bonus when they came. Unfortunately, I think my opponent mistimed it a little bit. Might have been because of the lag. If he'd been able to time it a little better, his infantry could have probably just smashed into my front line and destroyed or done much more damage. Shaggoth, that terror bomb, almost, I think, came close to securing my opponent the game because it broke the majority of my infantry. I had to throw the questing knights in there to tie my opponent down just for a little bit, give my infantry a chance to group, and that cost me that unit as well. So it was definitely a very pricey mistake for me to have moved my Griller like that far away. Definitely well played there. So yeah, definitely. I hope you guys enjoyed. As I said, this was mostly just to demonstrate the build, this Brettonia build that I was testing against Chaos, against the more conventional Chaos build that you're more likely to see on the ladder. I do hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a like or a subscribe down below. If you have any comments, critique, questions that you'd like to ask, any recommendations or any builds or units that you'd like to see demonstrated, do feel free to post those down below. Thanks to my opponent for the fun game, and I appreciate you all for watching. And Wyvern out.